This is Lizzie from Let Zoe Spoil You.
And Sagira from Sagira Salutes You. And together, we are Newbie versus Weeaboo. Sagira, Newbie.
Lizzie, a weeaboo.
It's Newbie versus Weeaboo.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello. We're back again, and we have an epic episode today. Lots of secrets being told, lots of things to be revealed. And because of that, we have decided that we're just going to do the one episode for this podcast because there is so much. And also, it was a longer episode as well. Like, it was 30 minutes as opposed to the 23 or something. It seemed longer because it was like already halfway in when it got to 17 minutes. And I was like, wow, that's a big long. It just seemed longer. I'm sure it was. I'm going to have to go back and have a look. But yeah, it just seemed so long in comparison to what I'm normally watching. So we're up to episode 21 of Neon Genesis Evangelion, The Birth of Nerve. And it's a really odd opening because there's no credits to start with. Normally you go into the cool, funky, do, and there was none of that.
No.
So it was really disconcerting and jarring to have that. And you're like, oh, this is a special episode. Yeah. This is something that we haven't experienced yet. And we start in the year 2000 in Antarctica. August 15th, if you're interested.
Someone was looking at the captures on the display.
I look at everything. And it's a grainy recording of some scientists discussing Dr. Katsuragi, which we know is Misato's last name, so it's her father.
Yep.
You might have to help me with the pronunciation of this, the super solenoid theory.
Yeah.
Solenoid theory.
The super solenoid theory. I'm just calling it that because I'm like, oh, goodness. I always get, when this bit happens, I'm like, right, here comes the science jargon. It's something to do with S2 drives. So the solenoids, I'm assuming, are the S2 drives, potentially.
Lots of sciencey things. It's hard to pick out what was needed and what wasn't.
Like what's kind of semi-made up and what's kind of like an actual theory in science.
And they're talking about powering the giant, which could be an Ava, could be an angel. We don't know because they just say giant. And are Avas being made at this point? Are they using an angel to make the Ava? We don't know. We just know it is huge, whatever it is. And then there's two voiceovers that talk about how ridiculous scientists are and how they're looking for praise over what they've discovered. So it's more about them and what they are.
The S2 engine, or the super solenoid, is a double helical three-dimensional vector engine located within the aircraft and is a device capable of producing massive amounts of energy. And the power source for the Radical series created by Newcom Inc. Basically, a solenoid is an electromagnetic coil which generates magnetic energy. So they basically took that theory and created the super solenoid theory. So it's not a real theory. It was created for Ava. And it's the S2 engine, which is this dimensional vectoring engine that makes energy. But still, it makes no sense to me. It's science.
Science jargon. We're here for the robots. So something goes wrong and everything starts going to poop. It's something to do with the DNA that has been inserted into Adam. And we know that Adam was the cause of the second impact, so that's not new. But it has undergone physical fusion. Do we know any more about that, or just a physical fusion?
A physical fusion. I think we'll find out more as it goes on. But most of the time they were just screaming back, quick, put the lance in! The lance is in! Oh no! So it's obviously they're using the lance to hold it still, but that's not working.
Yeah, the AT field has given way and they can't pull up the spear. So they want to start the cooling cycle once the gates of Guff open. The gates of Guff.
The gates of Guff. You really paid attention to this conversation.
Oh, I wrote everything down. You know me. I'm like, if it's said, it's clearly needed. So they're saying it walks, it has wings, and we just as we see this light that appears, a hand or something, it cuts out to a government warning. So it's just a blue screen saying top secret.
Yes.
And it's there for quite a while, so you get to read everything.
Yes. I always found that scary when you kind of just see these giant hands appearing and you're like, oh, something is not right. That thing's huge. What the? And then it just goes, government warning, prosecuted. You'll be shot if you're reading this, pretty much. It's like, oh dear, this is top secret and I shouldn't have watched that.
And then we get da 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 da. So it's like we have to have the credits somewhere.
Of
They're just too
course.
funky.
One of the best anime openings in history.
It really is. It's quite jazzy. In the outskirts of town, we see Kaji, who tries to call Misato. There's no answer, and we just see him hang up, but we know later on that that's not entirely true. He's looking at his ID, and he says that the red on his ID card looks like blood, or is the colour of blood.
Yeah.
And this reminds me of Ray when she was inside the Ava, I think it was, and she was saying that she didn't like red, the colour of blood. So this is another theme that keeps coming up again.
Yeah.
Something that was a throwaway line is now back again, and it must mean something.
These people have all been exposed to too much bloodshed.
Misato is talking to an agent, and they inform her that the deputy commander has been abducted. Not the deputy commander.
Yeah.
No.
Taken as 21 episodes, but I finally remember his name. Woohoo!
Because they say it.
Yep.
And it was an inside job, and the only person who could do an inside job would be Kaji. However, is it Kaji? Because there's so much backstabbing in this place that who knows if it was Kaji. They could just be using him as they know he's a spy for the Sile, as it's pronounced in this episode. Sile. We assume it's Kaji, and that's why they're telling Misato, because they know that she has a history with him and that they're close. So then she pulls out a gun saying, due to our history, it's the logical step to make.
Yep.
Is it though?
Well, just putting her under temporary house arrest while they sort things out, just in case she's in communication with him. Makes sense, you know.
The deputy commander is tied up and is being interrogated by the old man council.
But they're sound only. They won't look at him.
Yes, they are big blocks that say voice only. There's no projection and there's no physical form. It's just a big block that talks, which is more intimidating.
Yes.
And they have quite intimidating voices as well. Like, it gets a bit creepy as it goes on.
Yeah, it's like it's very unnatural to be interrogated by big stone blocks shouting at you, which is probably why they did it, to be more intimidating.
And they call him the Professor, which is clearly a name he hasn't been called for a long time. Flashback. Back to 1999, before the second impact.
Whoop whoop. I was
The
off
19.
to uni. Hey! It was a great year. Matrix is out. Woo! I think that was in 1999. That was around about that time.
So we see, I'm going to call the deputy commander the Professor from now on because...
But for you, it skis a bit.
It's a bit of a tongue twister. So the Professor he's now going to be called. And he's just outside the college or university or whatever it is. And they say he's invited for a drink with a colleague. And he's like, okay. And while he's out for that drink, they ask if the Professor knows a student called Ikari. And he hasn't heard of them. So we assume it's Gendo because that's Gendo's last name. He gets told that Ikari wants to talk to him about something. Read a paper that they have written. In the Professor's office, we find out that it is not Gendo Ikari, it's Yuri Ikari.
Yui.
So, Yui. The Professor asks, so what future do you want in the science field, I'm guessing?
Bioengineering is what she is.
She says, well, there's an option that you haven't come up with, which is the settling down housewife option and having children. But she has yet to find someone to do that with. So we now know that she's not married to Gendo at this point. So why has Gendo got Ikari as a last name?
Because when they got married, his name changed to Ikari.
Correct. But is that a thing in Japan where the man takes the woman's name rather than the woman takes the man's name?
I can't remember. Yeah, I always used to think you take the family name. This might be something I'm going to have to look up.
Because in my mind, when we start to learn about Gendo, I thought that if that isn't the way it is, and it is in fact normally the same as what we do, maybe because he's got such a bad reputation and Ui has a good reputation, that if he has her name, then he'll be associated with her rather than this outcast radical past that he's been living, so that's how I took it. But I also thought I'd ask if it's different traditions over there, but I don't know. It was just very interesting to the way that they played that as well, because Yeah, we were expecting to see Gendo, and no, not Gendo.
I know, it's quite interesting. I always thought, do they take different names? Because it's never something I've really thought about because, well, I'm not Japanese and... Although saying that, Luke took my name. But you can have that option over here.
But you have both names, don't you?
Yeah, I double-barreled it.
Are you researching?
Yeah. Okay, so it's a rare occurrence, but a husband can take the wife's family name.
So it's just the same as here.
Yeah. So you can choose. So it's rare, but you can take the wife's name. So I think he did it exactly for the reasons you say.
So then we zoom back to 2015, the 2015 interrogation, as I'm calling it. And the council say, as Ava 1 has assimilated the S2 drive, it has now attained absolute existence.
Yeah.
So it is now a thing of this earth.
Now a sentient life form.
They say they cannot worship a man-made god, nor have it fall into the wrong hands, which I assume is Gendo.
Yeah, they're basically saying they were saying that how they never agreed for a god to be made. That was never the point. They didn't want someone to make a god, and they definitely don't want a man such as Gendo Ikari to get a hands on a god, because God knows what a man would do with the power of God, especially when he's already a man playing God.
Many a god.
Many a god. God, good God, God. God.
So back in 1999... we hear the name Gendo Rukubangi. What a great name.
Rukubangi. And it was, I always laugh at that because there's a district of Tokyo that sounds similar, and I'm just like, it's in Rukubangi, like where you go drinking and gambling. But never mind.
Well, that would sum him up, because the professor is being asked if he had heard of him because Gendo has called him to come pick him up from prison.
Yeah, because he's
to come bail him out.
Because he's got into a fight.
Yes, he's got into a bar fight and he calls himself an outcast, and he wants to meet the professor because someone has been speaking highly of the professor. Who could it be?
Mutual acquaintance.
Now, we skip to a scene where the professor is walking with Ui, and he says back when we had seasons, as he's recapping what had happened. Yeah. So since the second impact, they've lost their seasons. There's no spring, summer, autumn, winter, and mainly in Japan, because they don't talk about the rest of the world. They keep mentioning Japan.
Yeah, I mean, Japan is very known for having, that part of the world has its 4 seasons, and they're like absolutely beautiful. So you can tell that they're currently walking around in October, but there's definitely a distinct 4 seasons. And obviously, like, Japan has so much culture tied into the changing of the season and stuff. I mean, everyone knows about drinking with the sakuras, but now there isn't spring, so there's no longer sakura blossoms, which must be absolutely devastating for a culture that has so much of its traditions tied up into that particular movement. Very sad, the loss of the seasons.
Really sad. So he's out for a walk with Ui, and she mentions that she and Gendo are in a relationship, and he's a bit shocked by this because she's so prim and proper and he's such a meh.
He's a bit of a dick with a bad reputation that seems to get into bar fights, and she seems to be a very smart bioengineer. That's very nice.
Maybe she likes the bad boy. Or maybe she just likes his brain, because at the end of the day, he is an intelligent man.
Yeah.
So.
And she does say that there's a side to him that only she sees.
But is it? Yeah. Is there that side, or is he putting it on?
Yeah, is he just being charming because he wants something from her?
Yeah, it's quite a sad relationship, because you don't really know if he truly, truly loved her, or if he was just using her and they just ended up in this relationship. It's not wonderful, but maybe he did. Maybe he truly loved her. People speculated that Gendo was only with her to get close to the organisation known as Sile, because she's associated with it. And they have symbols, they have triangles and eyes, and it's very reminiscent of the Illuminati.
Yes.
Very much.
Secret societies, eyes and triangles.
Fast forward to the year 2000 in Antarctica, and we're showed an infrared map of the impact, which is huge. And that's all it was for that bit, because then we go to 2001, and that's described as hell on earth. So that year was just people trying to figure out what to do as the ice caps have melted and everything is sinking. Oh, it's sinking.
Yes. Like the whole world is being flooded and you're losing everything in the massive destruction of property, life, and surfaces to live on.
And clearly the artist did not want to draw this, because then we just go straight to 2002.
Yes.
We didn't see anything of the hell on earth. We were just told about it.
It's really hellish. Skip a bit forward. Yep.
Mad Max with water. Waterworld.
Yeah, basically Waterworld. Yeah, definitely.
Desert, water. So in 2002, the ruins of Tohashi City. Tohashi, is that how you pronounce it?
I think
I
so.
always check. But yeah, so they're rebuilding basically. And it's a large construction site. Everything is hot and flooded, humid.
Oh,
And
I can't imagine. Oh, it's got to be awful. Hot and humid.
And there's water everywhere, but A, you can't drink it because it's seawater.
Yep.
And B, it's probably boiling. So even if you got in it, it's just a little jacuzzi, basically, if you got into it.
And it might be massively irradiated and things like that. It's probably not. It's probably best to just stay out the water.
Yeah, and it's probably mutated sharks and all sorts. And the professor is now working as a unlicensed doctor because he still wants to use his knowledge and everything to help people. But he's called on a mission to the Antarctic. And he doesn't know who's called him, but he thinks, well, if I can help, I'll go to the Antarctic. On a ship, he meets Gendo, and it's Gendo who called him. So the professor thought that Gendo was at the impact site with Katsuragi's team, but he was there. But the day before the impact, he went back to Japan. Oh, what a convenience. Oh, just so
coincidence.
Just so happens to leave the day before, why don't you? So he wasn't actually there for the impact. Gendo gives the professor a card which says that he's married to Uri, and he's like, yay, she wanted you to know, yay. Not so gleefully, but that's how I'd do it.
That's how you would do it, rather than she thought highly of you, so she wanted you to know.
Yeah, not so dignified as Gendo would do it, but yay! And he lets the professor know that they now have a child. At this point, I wasn't assuming anything. I was like, it could be Ray, it could be Shinji. At this point, I don't know anymore. My brain has been turned upside down and inside out. I don't know anymore. You'd assume it's Shinji, but
Could be anything.
So Gendo is now part of Sealay, and he's doing the Impact 2 investigation. And what the professor has worked out is that he has been brought along to it because they can't have too many Sealay people wandering around the Antarctic because it could get suspicious as to who was the people who made the second impact. If you've got a bunch of people from a secret organization swanning about, like, hang on a minute, why are they so interested? So they had to get the professor to make it look more like it's just random clever people trying to figure out why this so-called meteor hit. 2015, we're at the Nerve Isolation Facility 4, and Misato is sat in there waiting for whatever needs to happen. And she starts remembering. 2002, back on the ship, and a young Misato is sitting curled up on a chair, looking very disturbed.
Yeah, she's been through a lot.
Yes, and we can hear two people outside. So this is 2 years after the impact happened. And they were saying that she is the sole survivor of the impact. So the fact that we worked out that what she was in is a plug suit means that those plugs are pretty darn effective for saving people. She's the only person that survived from being inside there. So top-notch technology there. Well done, Nerve. Although Nerve wasn't created at this point.
Well done, secret organisation.
Yeah.
Sailing Geflin, or have you pronounce it?
Yeah, I kept trying to pronounce that and gave up.
It's German. That I do know. That means brain. That was one of those things I did remember for some unknown reason. Geflin.
So we have soul, we have brain, and we have nerve. Look at that.
Yeah, no, they're so clever.
So we see the professor is the person who's looking in on her, and she apparently hasn't said anything for 2 years. You can understand it.
Yeah, so traumatised that she's now a selective mute.
But to be fair, she has been in a cell for probably that amount of time. So if you're not really seeing anyone, you've not got the chance to talk to anyone.
No, they're probably not, because she's a witness to things, so they're just kind of keeping her close.
Yeah, they're probably just, if they talk to her, it's probably about the impact. They don't really want to know anything else, so, and she doesn't want to talk about it, so why would she talk if they don't want to? Are you okay? Do you want a cheese toasty? No, none of that.
No. What did you see?
Yes, basically. The professor looks at a picture of a giant of light, just this huge, glowy, giant thing that looks very close to an Ava, from what we can recognise it as. But did you read the report?
No, I did not read the report.
I was interested in the report. I was like, maybe there's a secret on here. But I started reading, and it started talking about a production company and SFX effects and anime and films and things that we're using, and it was like,
It's
okay,
fake
are they
reports. Yeah, that's.
It is. So at first I was like, is this a cover-up? Or are they using what they saw as like, oh, this was meant to be for a movie or an anime or something? Or are they just literally talking about the company that made Neon Genesis? Because some of it's covered up, so you can't read the whole report, but piecing it together, it's like, I think maybe they put a little Easter egg about the company, maybe. So go back and have a look and see what you can make out from it. Because it mentions film names, which I've never heard of, but you might recognise.
Is Gynax one of them?
I honestly couldn't tell you.
I'm going to have to go back and stare at the company report now.
Yep, that's what I did. That's what took me so long watching this episode.
Oh.
Literally reading and looking at everything for maybe a little.
Just me just sits there and absorbs it all, going, this is so good, I love it. Oh, it's so good.
But yeah, go back and have a look. It's quite interesting. The professor talks about the meteor cover-up, and he knows that that's not the case. He's pretty sure that he's being lied to as well as the rest of the world, and he thinks that Seele probably has something to do with it, or at least Gendo does, so he's not having any of it. Skip to 2003. The professor has come to visit Ui and Gendo to find out the truth. He wants to know. He wants to talk to Gendo directly. He questions Gendo about how much Gendo knew, because he's saying, well, you left the day before. Is that just coincidence or what? What, Gendo? What? He suspects that Seele and the Dead Sea Scrolls had something to do with the second impact, so one big massive conspiracy. Gendo takes him to an underground thing. It's just like a big hole in the ground at this point, isn't it?
Yes, it's interesting because the second impact left this big cavernous space basin underneath it, which obviously it's now flooded over. So when they go it's another crater that's absolutely spherical as well, and is the similar build to the crater, but it's underground and hidden.
But yes, so as you said, they were saying it was similar to the one in the Antarctic, and because of this, the professor is asking Gendo, well, are you thinking about making a third? Humanity is giving over anything and everything to build what will be Nerve. Obviously, Gendo has been charming and gone, hey, we can fix everything. Give us money.
Framed it as the next super secure super city that will be able to survive whatever. So there's another big natural disaster. This city is going to withstand the next big natural disaster and protect them all. And they're like, oh my God, yeah, after what's gone on, we want the best ever super city to keep us safe.
Even though they evacuate it every time.
Yeah, well, for for 15 years, nothing happened, and then angels started turning up. The people didn't realise that the super city was being built to fight the angels and house Adam. They just thought, oh God, yes! We don't want another meteor impact and mass flooding. This way, it's we'll be safe. If a mass flood comes, we can put you all under here, and we'll all be safe.
They go to visit Akagi. Is that how you pronounce her last name?
Akagi.
And we know that this is Rizuku's mum because it's the same last name.
Yep.
So we're meeting her mother. So it would seem that the professor and Akagi know each other, because he walks in, he's like, why are you here? You're part of this? And she's like, oh, yes, it helps with my research and theories. La, 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 la.
Yeah.
So
Sciencey science talk, yep.
She's happy as a pig in poop. She's just getting on with what she wants to do. They talk about the Magi. And as they're talking about it, we see a young plum-haired Ritsuko. She has purple hair at this point.
Yep, this is before she started bleaching it.
Be less like her mum, maybe. The professor is shown a mech organic mashup of some sort. This huge thing with metal, but then it's got a spine and it's got some wires hanging out of flesh, and yeah, it looks grim. But it's not the original Adam, because they do say Adam, but it's not the original. It is made up from him, his DNA, and it's called Prototype Eva Unit 0. So this is Ray's Ava.
Yes.
Ray's Ava came before Ava 1.
Yeah.
Which makes sense in terms of numbering.
And being called a prototype.
Yes, but in terms of the importance of it, because Ava 1 is more important than Ava 0. So we still need to know why Ava 1 is so much more important. They ask the professor to join, but before he can answer, we're thrown into part 2.
Dun, 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 dun.
So we don't know the answer just yet. And part 2 is called, He Was Aware That He Was Still a Child. Who was aware? Yeah. Who's still a child?
Find out during the episode.
Yes.
But pretty much most of the male characters were still a child in all of this, with the exception of Gendo, who's the only one who knows what's going on.
Back in 2015, Ritsuko is looking at Unit 1, just hanging out in its little fluidy bath thing.
Yeah.
And it seems to be pretty much back to how it was before all the Shinji dissolving jargon happened.
It's all nicely restrained. It's got all its armour restraints on it, and it's looking healthy.
She and Maya are testing Rain again, or they're going to test Ray. We find out that Misato isn't there because, well, they think that she hasn't turned up, but she's just in isolation. So no one knows about that apart from these spy guys that took her away.
Yeah.
And probably Kaji.
Yeah.
He knows a lot. Now we are jumping to 2005. Flashback to the first meeting of Misato and Ritsuko. And Misato has her voice back. As Ritsuko says, she knows that she's not spoken for 2 years, so she's clearly making up for lost time. Because
Yeah, and it's a really nice, sweet, like, meeting and a friendship, and the fact that people used to avoid Ritsuko because of her surname and who her mother is. But Katsuragi is just like, I don't care. I'm quite happy to hang out with you, and I'm not afraid by the connotations of your surname.
Yeah, and she's telling her mum all about it. So her and her mum are sending correspondence to one another to let each other know how. Even though she's considered an absent mother because of all her work, they still communicate quite frequently. The mother writes back saying that she's still working and Tokyo 3 is in development. It's not till 2005 that they are actually building it, it would seem. Or maybe she didn't know about it till 2005.
Yeah, I think they started building a city, but it's designation of Tokyo 3, the city that's going to be above the Nerve, which centre is now underway.
Ritsuko writes that Misato has been missing school quite a bit, and this is because she has a new boyfriend, which turns out to be Kaji. So this is the years of Kaji and Misato.
The indignant, and they were in bed for a whole week.
How dare they? Ritsuko likes him, but not in the same way that Misato does. She just thinks he's a bit boyish and careless sort of thing. The mother thinks that Ritsuko is awkward around boys due to growing up without a dad. We don't know enough about Ritsuko and men at the moment. We know that there's someone that she's seeing, but because she was talking about secret lovers or secret meetings or whatever, and so we know there's someone in her life, whether it's romantic or not. We have yet to know. In 2003, we're at the lake. It's a very pretty lake. Obviously a very hot lake.
Well, it's always summer now, isn't it? There are no seasons, it's always summer. But glittery water effects.
Pretty. The professor is out for a walk with Ui.
Huey.
And a baby, which she calls Shinji. So we know it's Shinji.
Definitely baby Shinji.
Definitely baby Shinji.
Shinji, maybe.
And the professor is saying that according to the Dead Sea Scrolls, there will be a third impact in 10 years' time. So that would be 2013. So it did not happen.
No, because it's now 2004.
No, it's 2003, Lake Ashi Levy.
Oh, okay. Well,
Levy. So it would have been 2013, so it passed.
I don't know, because it depends what time in 2013 and in 2003. I always assumed that the schedule for the third impact was meant to be 2014, which is when because if say this is December of 2003, then it would be 10 years. It would get just. Don't sweat the math so much. 2014 is when the third impact is due, because that's when the angels start turning up to create the third impact.
Okay, gotcha. Right, and they're trying to get to Adam to do that. That's why they're trying to get to him. They talk about Sele and secrets, and that they could both disappear if they are seen to be giving out those secrets. The professor is concerned that Ui is a test subject. Test subject for what? Well, we know this because we kind of worked it out in the last few episodes. So we skip a whole year forward to 2004 when Shinji is in the testing facility with his dad. Daddy's sitting there waiting for the testing to start, and Ritsuko's mum's like, "Where's the child here? What's the child doing?" And it's like, and Ui pops in over the tannoy saying that she wants him there. She wants him to see the bright future ahead of him. And that's the last word she ever said to him.
And then death flags. And the voiceover goes, and those are the last words ever spoken. And I was like, oh, tragic.
But she said, I want him to see that he has a bright future ahead of him. So did they always know that he was going to be a pilot from that point? Or is it just that he has a bright future because they've got this Ava that's going to make everything better?
Yeah.
So Ritsuko's mother does a voiceover, like you said, saying that was the last thing she ever said. But then she says that Uri disappeared and it was just as she had hoped. Mm-hmm. Oh, what a bitch.
She a bitch.
She a bitch. after that, they say that Gendo changed because he was grieving and he wasn't paying, or he didn't seem to be paying as much attention to his work. But in fact, he has already come up with a new plan.
Yep.
And submitted it already to the Sealy Council, and it's called the Human
Instrumentality Project.
Mentality Project. Thank you. The Human Instrumentality Project. Have we heard of that before? I cannot remember all the names of everything.
They mention it all the time. The Human Instrumentality Project was meant to be the main thing he was working on.
Yes.
Rather than building Ava's. Ava's was meant to be something he oversees, but wasn't his main focus. The big project he was meant to be doing was the Human Instrumentality Project, which we're still not 100% sure what it's about, but it's got something to do with angel DNA and humans.
Okay, cool. Because I was like, I'm sure I've heard this before, and I'm sure I should know it with all the notes I've written. But this is why I write so many notes, because I forget things, because there's names and there's dates and there's numbers and it's too much. Just fight angels. Just do that. I can keep up with that. Science jargon.
It's more complicated than that.
Fighting angels does not an episode make. So 2008, Ritsuko writes to her mother again about work on the Magi. It is completed with basic theories. Yay! And she has been accepted into the German thing that you were talking about. What's it called?
Geffen? Glyphin?
We know how to butcher a language, don't we?
Yeah. But this also explains why Oscar was in Germany, because they always had a German branch. And I'm assuming that Seele was a German company from the start, because obviously it's the German for soul. There was Seele first, which I've kind of pieced together that was like, that's the German company, and they were also had their own branch, and then Nerve came later, and they were already raising Oscar out there somehow. We'll find out more about that, I think, later.
Well, she's going out there to help with Project E, which we already know is the Ava Unit 0 project, so she's going out there for that. Ritsuko is having a look around the command center, and she spots her mother kissing Gendo.
Dun, dun, dun. Scandalous.
You hussy. What a bitch.
Yeah.
She's like, you're still grieving Ui. And then she kisses him. And it's like, no, you bitch.
She wanted Gendo all along.
And then we jump to 2010. Gendo and Ray are looking down at the HQ being built. So Ray has all of a sudden come into play. Ritsuko and her mother meet them. And Gendo says, well, at first, Ritsuko's mum is like, your child, Shinji. No, wait, that's a girl. Wait, what? So she's confused as to who this child is.
It's like, why is this random, 6-year-old or something just randomly turned up out of nowhere?
And Gendo says, this is a child of a friend. Man, I'm looking after them. Yeah, because that seems like a Gendo thing to do, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Just be a babysitter.
Yeah, totally babysit other people's children. I mean, I seem to be ignoring mine. And it's also bring your friend's daughter to work day, apparently, in this secret base. So kosher. So kosher.
Secrets aplenty. Ritsuko's mum is obviously suspicious.
Yeah.
So she wants to find out about the child. And also she thinks that the child looks like Ui as well.
Yeah,
so...
and it does. The minute you see Ui, you're like, well, it has Ray's haircut. It has Ray's haircut. She has Ray's haircut, a similar voice and same eye kind of shape and stuff. Yes. It's like, well, yeah, Ray looks like albino version of Ui.
So this causes Ritsuko's mum to go and have a look at Ray's files, which there are none.
No.
There is not a file to be seen, a blank slate. The Magi is complete, and the mother tells Ritsuko what Ritsuko told Misato about the 3 parts.
Yep.
So the woman, the scientist, and the mother. So it is her personality that's inside the Magi. And it's time to power on, but before they do that, Ritsuko says, it's time to leave. I've got to go. You turn it on. You've got this.
Misato's coming back and she wants to go for drinks.
And she's coming back from Germany, which then explains the Asuka-Misato conversation when they first met and they were having they were having a chat as if they knew each other. So this explains, yes, how they know each other from before. So it's great getting all these like, oh yeah, that's because of that, and this happened because of this.
Now we know how people know each other and where they've been coming from and where they've been living and where they've been going.
But at this point, she and Kaji have broken up. So so that's the end of that relationship. As we know now, all the things that have happened, because Misato said that she broke up with Kaji because of all the similarities to her father. So she's going through all that whilst away in Germany.
Yes.
Like,
So when she
trying
comes
to
back,
grapple.
so she comes back from Japan. Kaji is still in Germany, which is obviously why Oscar grows up to kind of like really fancy him because he's out in Germany because he works for Seele and the government.
Mitsuko leaves, but we hear the door again, and Ray comes in. Mitsuko's mother is like, "Oh, are you lost? I'll take you back." She's like, "No, I don't need an old hag like you to take me back." Excuse me? The audacity. And she's like, "But you are an old hag. That's what Gendo calls you." Dun, dun, dun.
This bit is mental. It's like...
It is really, it's so quick as well.
I know. It's just like, because she goes in and says, "Are you lost?" "Yes. Do you want me to show you the way?" And then Ray's like, "No, I'll be able to find the way back, old hag." I don't know how they do it in the dub, but they end it with old hag. And it's like, yeah, blah, 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 old hag. And she's like, it's not very nice to call someone an old hag. And then Ray's all like, "Yeah, but that's what Gendo calls you. That old hag isn't useful anymore. I can't wait to get rid of that old hag." And it's just like, oh dear.
And from that, she starts seeing Ui's face, which she's not happy about because obviously she wants Gendo. And if Gendo's still got this thing around that reminds him of his dead or disappeared wife, then, it's going to anger her. But also we do a flash to when they're kissing. And what you see is she's got her eyes shut, but his eyes are open. So he's not into it.
Yeah.
He's
only
kind of
pretending he's into it so that he can continue to lead her on.
Exactly. So she get all mad, and next thing we see is her hands wrapped around Ray's neck, and she says the line, "There are plenty more where you came from." Clone! Clone! Clone.
Wow, is it a clone, or is it just that there's plenty more like replacements for what you represent out there?
It's a clone.
I mean,
she kills baby Ray, and then there's an adult Ray who looks exactly the same as baby Ray. It's got to be a clone.
Yeah. Although whether or not like Akagi knew it was a clone or not is still up to debate because she couldn't find out any information on Ray, and then she kills Ray without finding out anything about her, going, "There's plenty more." So she doesn't know that there's more actual Rays out in the world.
She's not certain of it.
So there's no time for her. So I always got it as the fact that she kills her because she's jealous of Yui, but it's that whole plenty more fish in the sea. She's just trying to kill Yui again. And it's like, you know what? You can be replaced as well in the hope that she can be the person that replaces.
We hear a click of some sort. That day, the Human Instrumentality Project dissolved the research organisation, that German name GIEM, or whatever it is.
No, not good. I can't pronounce German.
Well, they've got rid of it. We don't need to worry about it anymore because they've got rid of it.
Yeah, there we go.
And Nerve was founded instead.
Woo.
And they are to carry on the project. Next, we see quite a disturbing thing, which is it pans down and there is blood spatter all the way up the wall and a chalk outline of someone who has been pushed or jumped or fell. Someone went splat.
I always assumed they got shot in the head.
Really?
Yeah.
It looks like someone's jumped.
I assumed that the click was someone shooting Akagi in the head after she killed Ray.
Or did she shoot herself in the head?
Exactly. But they're trying to...
See, I didn't know what the click... I thought it was a light going out. I didn't realise it was like a flash.
I thought it was a gunshot.
Maybe it was.
But it's been a while since I've seen it, so I can't say for certain now. I'm doubting.
It's just, from someone who hasn't seen it before, it looked like... Because they panned downwards, it looks like they were going down something. So it looked like it was a long fall. So it looked like someone had jumped. However, if it was a gunshot, then that makes perfect sense. So who knows at this point? We'll find out later. 2015. Kaji is rescuing the deputy commander. He's got him out. And he thinks Seele are onto him about giving the Adam sample to Gendo. So he knows he's in trouble from everywhere.
From everywhere.
On him.
But it's like, but you know that he was not the one that kidnapped Fuyutsuki. He was not the one who kidnapped him. The Seele kidnapped him to interrogate him, to frame Kaji. And if Kaji rescues him, it's proof that Kaji is working with Fuyutsuki and Gendo. So obviously he kind of signs his own death warrant by going, well, I know where they're keeping them because I've been playing both sides, and I did also give Adam to Gendo.
And after that scene, they give Misato her gun and badge back, saying that the issue has been resolved. which means one thing. He gone. However, saying that, Kaji is meeting with someone who he is expecting because he said something like, I was wondering when you'd get here or something.
Yeah.
Something along those lines. But then there's a gunshot.
Yeah.
But they go Sopranos on us and do a blackout before we can see anyone get shot. I mean, we assume he's been shot. It's just too traumatizing to watch him get shot.
Yeah, because Kaji's nice. I was like, no, not Kaji. The first proper character death in this, and it's someone you've got so attached to.
Exactly. So yeah, there's that little part because I haven't seen the rest of it. There's a little part of me who's like, we didn't see him die. Maybe he's not dead, but there's a bigger part of me going, he dead. He had to die. No, not Kaji. But from that traumatizing part, we go back to the flat with Masato, and Shinji's there with his headphones in, listening to something. Maybe it's another beep boop bop song.
Yeah.
Masato sees her message light blinking. And she knows that it's Kaji. She knows what's coming, so she's like really hesitant. And she plays it, and I assume that this is the message that we didn't get to hear at the very beginning, which is quite a nice like circle of it started with the phone call, it ended with the phone call. So that's quite beautiful the way they did that. He asks if she'll water his plants, and Shinji knows where they are.
Yeah.
She's like, oh, no.
No, there's the beautiful watermelons. The only other thing he loves.
And he hopes that she keeps going and that she'll find out the truth because she deserves it, really, doesn't she? Because if he knows about her past and her dad and everything, then she's more than anyone needs to know what happened because it's basically a family heritage.
Yeah.
What happened? So she should know. Oh,
I know.
It's so sad.
It's so sad. It's like, oh God, the first time I watched it, I cried my eyes out.
And he said, I hope that I can tell you what I should have said to you 8 years ago. So he still had that tiny piece of hope, or he was giving her that tiny piece of hope that they might be able to see each other one more time or something, and they didn't. And it's like, no. So when she starts crying, it is heartbreaking because it's that slow, small sobbing into huge tears and wailing, and it hurt. It really hurt.
So it's so. Oh, I nearly well up. I'm nearly welling up now just thinking about it. It's just how sad and broken and like. But it's also the card. She's like that like, oh, if I get to see you again, I'll tell you those words. And it's like, no, you cannot promise that because you should have just told her you loved her. You should have just told her, and then maybe things could have been different. But now she also knows that you do love her, but she's not going to see you because you're dead, and that's even more heartbreaking. No, it's all too sad. And then Shinji's being a dick in the other room.
Yes. Shinji hears the crying, and we see his little head poke round, and he's like, oh, crying woman, run away. So he runs off because that's what Shinji does. Once again, he runs away, and he's lying on the bed, and he can hear her wailing next door, and he says, what can I do? I'm just a child. And then it ends, and it's like, that was horrific, okay? I do not like this episode. This episode was rotten, and we learned a lot, which was great. And very nice.
It ended mega sad.
But it didn't need to happen that way. It didn't need... Oh!
Yeah,
but
feelings.
The interesting thing is that we need to now know who did it, who shot Kaji, because he was expecting whoever did it. So could it have been Gendo? Could it have been Ray? These are just a bunch of people that we don't know who did it because...
Apart from me.
Well, yeah. When I say we, I mean the collective we of newbies.
Yes.
The newbie community.
The newbie. The ones that don't know what's going on. And I'm like, when I think about who did it,
Or Shinji. Could be Shinji as well. Oh, it could be anyone. Oh, anyone is sad.
It literally could be anyone.
Could be Asuka. Oh my God, imagine it was Asuka. Oh, no. I'm not going to say any more because I don't want to be given any hints. I don't want to...
No, just got to let the mystery play out.
The fact of the matter is he knew the person that was there. He was meeting them, and he was very relaxed. So he probably didn't think that whoever shot him was going to do it.
Yeah.
From the way, or if he did, he didn't think it would be so brutal and quick.
Yeah, because he thought he was going back to tell Masato he loved her.
I hate everything at this point.
Welcome to Evangelion.
It's so annoying that because this one took so long because it had so much detail and everything that I have to wait to watch the second episode that we were going to watch. So, I mean, these are all like we decided also that we were going to do this one episode because our podcasts are getting so long, because it's taken us ages to just recap one episode, because so much has been revealed now, and there's so much to not just think about what could be happening, but also what has happened in the past. I mean, for example, the fact that Unit 0 was after Ritsuko. Well, now we know that Ray was killed by her mother. So is that why it's after Ritsuko? Because her mother's a killer, so it's blaming Ritsuko? Yeah, it's all like little things like that.
Yeah, all those little things that are now coming together of like, why? And you're like, oh, goodness.
Not just a case of thinking, oh, what could this mean? It's going back on other notes going, oh, what did I write? What did I write? What did we talk about? And then going back over old podcasts and listening and going, what did we talk about? So yeah, it's taking ages to do one episode. So possibly, depending on how detailed each episode is, we might just do one episode per podcast because it's getting meaty.
Yes, it is. And I'm not even a big romantic, but I was like, oh. So for me to be upset about that, it's like, oh, I really felt for them.
But to cheer ourselves up, is there anything you'd like to suggest while we're in quarantine?
I'm trying to think of what I've watched recently. What have I done? What did I do yesterday? I've seen a couple of first new episodes of new series. So I've started watching the brand new Digimon, which is interesting to see how it's played out differently from Digimon. And then coming to that realisation that I'm old enough now to be watching a reboot of something that I thought I would never be into again, so I got rid of the toys and now want the toys back because I've just seen all the figures of the Digimon going, oh my god, I used to have that one. Oh, I got rid of it because it'd never come back.
Speaking of toys, did you see that thing I sent you of the Tamagotchis?
Tamagotchis, Ava Tamagotchis.
Yes, Neon Genesis Evangelion Tamagotchis. What in the world?
Japan! I mean, it's also, the place that their Universal Studios had an Evangelion roller coaster.
Oh my!
I don't know if it's still got it or not because I haven't been to Universal Studios Osaka, but they had an Attack on Titan coaster and they had an Evangelion ride, and I'm like, I want to ride the Evangelion ride. I want to ride it so much.
What was I going to say?
I know what I've watched. I binged watched all of the current series of Nailed It.
Yay!
And it was fun. Like something completely off track. It's not horror. It's not gay. It's not anime. I watched Nailed It because I needed a change of pace.
Yes, you need that comedy of just Nicole What's-Her-Face just laughing at every little thing and just, oh my.
She was hilarious this season. I was like, I don't know what's changed, but now I'm finding her really funny.
She has a catchphrase that she's really pushing this season, which is, what a treat. And then she was on the Good Place podcast because she's in an episode. Do you remember when they go to the post room and stuff? And she was talking on that and she kept saying, what a treat. I'm like, you are pushing this catchphrase. What a treat.
I was glad that Riverdale came back and whew, that was an
Riverdale's back.
I came back today. Oh, go watch it. The episode's amazing.
Isn't it the musical one?
Yeah, it is.
A musical.
And you know I love a musical. I love it. I love a musical so much. I love death and destruction and social commentary and horror and musicals. So I was just, it's what I watched before Ava, which was a bit of a tonal shift. I went straight in from musical Riverdale to that episode and I was a bit like, oh, tone change. New episode's out. After this, go watch it.
I will. I shall be going to watch that. Oh, there's a show on Netflix. If you're into your comedy and if you're into your cars and if you're into your coffee, there is a TV program called Comedians in Cars Drinking Coffee. And it's basically Jerry Seinfeld takes random comedians out. So Jim Carrey, Eddie Murphy, Ricky Gervais, and some other ones that I don't know, but they were really funny. He just takes them out for a drive in a car. They go to a coffee place and they drink some coffee, they eat some food, and they just talk about comedy. And I find it really interesting. As somebody who is a big comedy buff, I find it really interesting and it is very entertaining. So I suggest that. If you want something that's just chill, and you just don't expect anything from it, just a nice conversation between two comedians in cars drinking coffee. Social media.
Da-na-da-da-da-da.
I
don't know. I'm running out of things. And was I slightly brain dead from that episode and my tonal whiplash from what I was watching this morning? I went from watching Yowie to watching Riverdale to watching Ava. So I'm a bit like, and I watched an episode of Sonic the Hedgehog. So, because me and Luke are watching Sonic X as our mealtime watch. So, yeah, just doodle-a-doodle-a-doo.
I'm just going to have you jumping around.
my
Do boop 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 do 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 boop boop. There we go, the Zoe dance.
There we are.
I will come in on a wave of sadness. Kaji. And there's my social media.
It's raining tears, raining tears.
Just, you haven't seen these yet, Lizzie, but
Oh, dear.
I have been starting to draw things to help with our things at the end, because I haven't got this kind of clip art to be adding to it, so I thought I'd make my own.
I mean,
Now,
I
please
was
do not...
impressed with the wind one when it went woo.
Well, you wait till you see a helicopter.
Brilliant.
But yes, please do not think that any of these pictures are a true reality of how I draw things, because they are rough drawings. They are so rough. I can draw better than that, and you can see that in these social medias, but not here. Here is rubbish. Oh dear. Okay.
On that note, so from a weeaboo, it's Jane.
And from a newbie is Kaji. Why?